Well guys, welcome back to another all-wheel drive Honda build episode. In the last video, you guys saw us bring this car over to our friends at Strayed Fabrication, who welded in our full 8.5 certified cage. And well, today we need to go through and finish up the cage and make it look as good as the rest of the chassis. Now, I originally planned on paint matching the cage to the chassis, but I think I'm gonna go a different route. Now, in front of us should be all of the paint supplies necessary to, one, correct the areas that we need to and paint the bottom plates. This is all of the leftover stuff from when we painted the chassis. So I'm very much hoping that all of the knowledge that Val has taught me, I'm able to replicate and do it back on this car. Now, first things first is we have to go through, move our steering wheel, drop down, actually probably just pull off our steering column and then get the dash out of the way. That way we won't have anything in here when we go to paint. But this is just all held on by a few bolts. Come out of here. Now that we have the cage in, it's kind of like a system to get this thing removed. There we go. I'm struggling. There we go. And right when I thought we were done with body work, we have to do a ton more. This is gonna be a pretty tedious sanding process. I'm not quite sure how easy it is going to be to strip all of this coating on the Chromoly cage, but I'm hoping it won't be too bad. Ah, shoot. Ah, damn it. I was scared for this as I broke through the welds, as you guys can see right there. Still a little hot, but. Well, I've got a feeling I'm gonna regret this, but we're gonna go ahead and try to weld this up ourselves with probably the cheapest welder money buys from Harbor Freight. Yeah, no, that did not good a plan. Like I thought, I completely just burnt through the chassis, as you guys can see right there. All right, we tried hand sanding this cage. It is taking way too long. So huge thank you to the boys at Strayed, the people that installed my cage for me. They let me borrow their very fancy sand belts thing. I'm not quite sure the fancy term for this, but I'll show you guys how this works. This is going to make sanding this cage for polishing a million times easier. So down here, this is what that belt sander did for us, and this is what hand sanding. This is still several coats darker than what their belt sander did, and this took a fraction of the time as it did for hand sanding. So if we can get a result like this on most of the cage, I would be very happy, and we can jump straight to polishing this thing. But I'll give you guys a little demonstration on how this works. And to keep in mind, this is the least aggressive Scotch-Brite that they had. They were gracious enough to give me all of the different scuffnesses. So we're gonna go ahead and just try this with the blue one and show you guys how it works. But if you see, you just press down and it just forms to the tube, which is insane. You guys just saw, that was maybe 3 seconds, and just take a look on how that looks. Insane. This is going to make this job a million times easier, and I don't have to buy this very expensive tool since they let me lend this, but I mean, just take a look at that. That is insane. there we go. I'd say we have about 70% of this cage all scuffed out and sanded. We're gonna go through and start polishing this up. I think we're gonna start on either one of the driver or passenger door bars, polish this thing up and make sure that we actually like the look of this before we commit, because this is going to be a very long progress. I have a feeling this is about to get very messy. This cage is going to be the death of me. It is countless hours of just sanding, but we have 99% of this cage sanded out. Today, our game plan is we need to go ahead and start masking off the interior, as we need to paint and blend in our base plates. But first, we're gonna go ahead and lay out our main sheet to cover the ground. And as you guys know, the funnest part when you are painting any part on your car is the prep work. I don't even know how long we're in here. I have the girlfriend here helping as well, which is saving a ton of time. But here we go. Looks like we are quarantining this car, which is hilarious. But obviously I want to make sure that I don't get any overspray on any of the panels, because we already went through and painted this car. I would hate to have overspray. Again, we still do have to cut and buff this whole car once the car is running. Shouldn't be that much of an issue, but we're trying to get this thing knocked out because I'm trying to lay down paint today. What we're gonna start with is our self-etch primer. As you guys can see, it is exposed bare metal on the floor plates and around where they grinded. This spraying on first is going to prevent this from rusting and corroding beneath our paint. That way we can have a nice intact paint job. Now, since this full interior has already been painted, we are having to blend this paint, and I'll kind of show you guys my thought process and what I'm doing to blend this. So on the rear plates, I masked across the seam seal line, as we're going to have plastic pieces in here that's going to cover it. Plus, I feel like the seam seal line is going to be the perfect place to blend. And then everywhere else, we chose a hard line. As you guys can see here, there's divots. I am going to be blending on all of the hard lines. That way it'll blend over the line, not on a flat surface. So I did that across all of these panels. And then on this rear plate, I'm doing it on this back bend. And then every single hard line I can find, that is where I hard masked. And hopefully we can get a decent blend job. All right, now we go ahead and let that dry for a few minutes, and then we can start mixing up our base coat. All right, while our primer is drying, we're gonna go ahead and mix up our base coat. We are using the same stuff that we painted our interior with. I have a little extra, which thankfully I do. This is going to be a 1-to-1 mixture, so whatever part, however much I put base, we're gonna match it with some reducer. So I don't know exactly how much we need. Can't imagine we need a whole lot. We're doing 3 coats because that's how much we did on the interior. So 3 coats of base and 3 coats of clear. Let's see if Val's knowledge is enough to get this done here. I feel like 12 ounces will be enough. 12 ounces should be plenty. Perfect, we have a 1-to-1 mixture there. 6 ounces of base with 6 ounces of reducer. Total of 12 sprayable ounces. There we go. Gun is all ready. Well, I don't know how much audio you guys weren't just getting there. Apparently my stupid wireless mics was not picking up audio, but we just got our clear coat loaded up. We have to go ahead and hurry up and spray this out as our base coat is getting a little bit too dry. Sick. This car is going to be the death of me. We just finished up, and what I'm doing right now is I peeled a lot of this masking up. I wanted to lift it up before it started to dry. That way it can kind of blend in together. At least that's my hopes of it. So we're gonna let this bake. I was gonna leave it overnight. Devin's saying be patient, leave it a couple days. So we're gonna bake this overnight, check in tomorrow afternoon, see how it looks, because we still need to polish out this cage. Granted, we have it all sanded. It looks fantastic how it is right now, but we need to go through, polish it. But this paint job really pissed me off here. It might be hard to see on camera. Actually, on camera, it looks like a perfect match. But I can't tell, because what I did, I don't know if this is the proper way to do this, is first I sanded the whole area, of course, that I was painting, and then I did my hard line on the divots and where I wanted to blend it. But then past that, I also sanded it in hopes of I'd have kind of like 3 different layers. I'll be able to like polish and wet sand all of it together, and hopefully I can get like a nice blend. So maybe that's what's throwing me off here, but this looks several shades darker than what the car actually is. Maybe you guys can see right there. So it's pissing me off. Granted, these parts you'll never be able to see, but in my mind, it's driving me crazy with how it looks. But we're gonna give this a couple of days. We'll go through, make sure that it's what I want, and end of the day, I'm probably gonna leave it how it is. But yeah, this has been beating me up today. All right, well, it is now a few days later. We went ahead and just let the car sit with the heater on in the shop so we could bake this paint so it can cure before we go through and start polishing out this chassis. Safe to say, in the last part when we painted this thing, I got super flustered and annoyed with this paint job, which is something you shouldn't really do when you're painting a car. But I was very annoyed because, as you guys can see, the paint is not the same color. The original paint, which is in this lower section here, is several shades lighter than the portion that we painted. I think when we go through and polish and paint correct the whole interior, after this car is done, it'll look a little bit better. Plus, you're not gonna be able to see these floor plates. The rear end is going to have its hatch, all of that stuff, and then we're gonna obviously have our dash in and our seats. But for me, I was chasing perfection, and that is not what we got. But at the end of the day, I am learning everything with this car. This is my second time painting and my first time with a sad attempt of blending. But there's a few things that I horrendously messed up on that I kind of want to show you guys in case you guys are in a similar situation like this. The biggest one being is how I laid down the plastic. I'm so used to doing the exterior of the car, I did not do it on the interior. If you guys saw, I had an issue with keeping the plastic down. So when I was spraying, we're using a lot of compressed air, 24 PSI. Unless you have the masking job done properly, it is going to flare and get in your way, which is what happened for us. So that is something I would change. I would make sure to backmast every hard crevice here. I'd ideally like to box each section in. But we live and learn. But today's game plan, and hopefully we can finish off this cage today, is we are gonna go ahead and start polishing this thing out. Oh yeah, you guys are now able to see how good this is looking. We switched over to a, what is it? Rotary. A rotary, and this thing is cutting straight through here. This looks so good. So now the game plan is I'm going to follow him. I'm using an orbital, so I'll follow whatever bar he hits with my orbital, see if he'll clean this up some more, but this is insane. It's hard to see on camera, but I promise you guys, once we are finished up here and we can push this out to the sun, it's going to pop like crazy. Well guys, we're done. Now, is this polish job perfect? Absolutely not, but we did the very best that we were able to. Unfortunately, some of these areas are just impossible to hit and make look perfect, but all of the main areas on this cage look really good. We're gonna go ahead and push this thing out to the sun, do the last wipe down on here as we still have a ton of polish on this thing, and we are gonna be able to see if this was the right call. With a clean towel here, we're gonna go ahead and wipe off all of this polish. Oh, this thing shines. It's like blowing out the camera, it looks like. This thing shines, guys. Now this is what I'm talking about. This pillar is going to be very bright, but if we make our way down to the sill bar, I mean, it's still pretty bright actually. It's still decently bright, but as you can see, it's a little bit different. It's also very hard. Now this is polished and kind of a chrome, the lighting plays a huge role. So in some lighting, it looks the same. When you have light hitting one piece and not the other piece, it looks completely different. But yeah, let's go through and wipe this thing down. Here we go. This is our final result after countless days of getting this cage done. Granted, we did have to wait a little bit while we painted, but here we go, guys. This thing looks so good. And well guys, I think that is going to wrap up today's video. This project took way longer than I originally anticipated for, so we have fallen far behind on getting this car actually put back together. But of course, I'm trying to chase the great show car look of this as well, and I think we did achieve that in today's episode. But these next following videos are going to be some pretty big ones. We just got the motor back from the machine shop. It is now bored and honed for our pistons. So we're going to be fully building our sleeved block for this car. I just got in my full PPG gear set. That's right, we're doing a full PPG dog box on this trans. So we're gonna be building that trans in the next following video as well. We're gonna get the motor and trans together, dropped in the car, start wiring up this chassis, and really from there, it's just all of the miscellaneous stuff. We have to send this car back off to our boys at Straight to get a custom turbo kit made. But very soon here, I'm hoping we can start seeing a ton of progression. Hopefully we don't have huge delays like we did on this roll cage. But make sure you guys stay tuned as this car is coming together.